We have everyone present with the exception of Mr. Restucci, Councilman Restucci, who sent a excused absent request, and evidently he forgot until this late this afternoon. I'm going to say this in public record, his anniversary. How tacky is that? But anyway, so what is the wishes of the council? Shall we give him an excused absence and a black mark on his anniversary?
I have a problem with that. I mean, I know it's his anniversary, but for crying out loud, I asked him last week if he's going to be here. He said yes, and
well, he forgot. So I know how men's memories are when it comes to anniversaries and that sort of thing. So it's up to you guys. Excused or not excused?
I think we should excuse him, yes.
Okay. How's consensus here?
I would have to say no. I think it's important we're here during the budget season right now, especially.
Okay. Okay. So one no. Anybody else want to weigh in?
I'll just say it's a special occasion, so I'll in my eyes, yes, I agree with Council Member Henry, and obviously it is important. This is our primary duty to be able to get our budget obviously straightened out, and this is an important meeting tonight. So I do feel for him. Obviously, I've done that myself before, so I empathize with him. So I have no problem with that. At least not tonight.
At least not tonight, Mr. Schindler.
I'm okay with it.
Okay, so we'll give him a pass on this one with some reservations. So only because it's his anniversary, so the thought I had on it. So everybody else is here. We're all present in our places. Okay, full of turkey, I imagine still. So I don't see anyone here for invocation, but if you'll stand, please, we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. Now is the time for unscheduled appearances by citizens. Citizens are advised that they must limit their remarks to the council to 3 minutes, and that items presented may be referred by the council to staff for review and or additional information for presentation to the council at a future council meeting.
Council, Mayor, City Manager, thank you again for allowing me to speak to you. I think this is probably the third time or fourth time in the last few months. I just want to express on behalf of all of our staff, students, parents, and community members, thank you for your consideration of our request to continue our current contract obligations with regards to our school resource officers, as well as our gang intervention and prevention specialist. We greatly appreciate all your time and effort in considering those two requests. I know you've had some very difficult challenges with budgets up to this point. We look forward to working with you from the school district's perspective. We look forward to working with you in the very near future so we can continue this great partnership that we have. Thank you. Sorry, Kevin McKay, Superintendent, Sunnyside School District. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Now off to my own school board meeting, so have a nice evening.
You as well.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any other unscheduled speakers?
Good evening, LaDon Lindy, Sunnyside. Know you're dealing with some difficult budget issues at this point, and I would just encourage you to discourage you from thinking that recreational marijuana is the path to go. I know it looks like an income source. I still worry about the effects on the citizenry, both short-term and long-term. I also think that looking at income that has perhaps come to the city of Prosser may not be an accurate measurement, as they draw heavily on people that come from Tri-Cities, as it's not readily available there. We don't have that same demographic scenario here as you look at Yakima, because there are many legal stores there in Union Gap. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishes to speak at this time? Okay. So we have a request for to amend the agenda by adding item 3D and 3E added on to November 26th 2018. And I believe those active items, one is the solid waste, CPI, and tipping fee increases, as well as item E is fee charges update, considering for the recently adopted for the 2019 budget. I'm not sure what that is, but I'm sure we'll find out. Is there any objection to amending the agenda to include those two items?
No, ma'am.
Okay, hearing no objection, the agenda is amended. First on the agenda tonight is the consent agenda, and I know that we received a email from our finance director regarding a garbage to the Yakima waste systems. Is that something?
You skipped the page. I think you're on the wrong one. Should be the consent agenda.
Yeah, right here. No, there was a question that came up in an email about one of the claim vouchers regarding, it looked like we were double paying the waste system. And so you had clarified that in the email. I'm assuming everyone from the councilmen all got to see that. Was that clear to everyone?
Never saw it. I haven't looked at
It
it.
was a check that was lost in the mail apparently, and then we just did a stop payment and reissued the same check amount, obviously new check number, from what I recall.
I believe that's what it was. Is that?
That is correct, ma'am. I apologize. We thought you'd jumped over to the next, to the active agenda.
No, I just wanted to make sure that people, when they were looking at the vouchers today, that they saw
Yes.
that and had seen also the email from Ms. Alba later I think it was either early this afternoon regarding that. So,
That is correct.
so with that in mind, are there any other questions on the consent agenda? What is the council's,
I'll move to
Desire.
approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second.
so the motion by Mr. Guerrero and seconded by Mr. Henry. Is there any debate? Hearing none. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. I too vote aye. Motion carried. And thank you for sending out that email in that regard, because it's like, otherwise it looked like we were paying way too much money for garbage. It's big enough as it is. Okay, moving on to the active agenda, we have a notice to, and I know there's usually something I'm supposed to say. Here it is. So public hearings, there's a little bit here. This is a public hearing concerning our 2019 preliminary budget, which was published in the Daily News on Wednesday, the 21st. This is to receive public comment on that preliminary budget. The hearing is being held to receive those comments to the City of Sunnyside 2019 budget for the fiscal year commencing January 1, 2019 through December 31st, 2019. So the concern is that this hearing be fair in form and substance as well as appearance. Council members, do any of you have conflict of interest concerning this issue? Do any of you stand to gain or lose any financial benefit as a result of the outcome of this hearing? If your answer is yes, please speak now. Audience member, is there anyone in the audience who objects to my participation or any other council member's participation in these proceedings? If there are objections, please approach the microphone, state your name and address in your objection. The public hearing is now open. The city manager will provide the staff to report on this item.
Madam Mayor, if I may allow Ms. Alba to speak on this item, we're here to present and discuss the 2019 preliminary budget.
Thank you, Mr. Day. Mayor and Council, this document before you is very little changed from what you saw last Monday. I have revised the contingency fund down, and these numbers are still in progress. While we're having a public hearing tonight, I do expect to see more trimming down of this budget. Dawn and I have been working and looking at everything we can to see where there are possible savings or things that we can reduce and try to slim our budget down. The other part of this is this budget is contingent on how we change or how we end in 2018. And I've been very closely monitoring our ending fund balance, and I do want to let you know that I will be coming back on December 10th with some proposes. I will be coming in with a budget amendment for 2018. There's one that is necessary. And I do have several funds in 18 that will not make it to the end of the year. So I will be asking for an interfund loan for some funds. I want to get 2 more weeks out so that I can see where we're going to come in at. But when 18 ends, I know we will have some funds with a deficit, and they will need to have an interfund loan. So I'm preparing that. I've actually been running my report. Ran it on Friday, ran it again today after payroll posted so I could see where I was at, and I'm going to monitor very closely where we are until the end of the year. But by December 10th, I should have a good idea of how much money we need to get through the end of the year, and it is likely we will need an interfund loan for several funds.
Okay. Any citizens' comments regarding the wish to be heard on this matter? Please approach the microphone, state your name and address, and offer your testimony regarding the preliminary budget. So now, I don't see anyone stepping up and running to the microphone. So, council members, any questions or comments on this item?
I, for one, am not a big fan of interfund loan transfers. Our budget should stand in its own without loans, just like anybody else. If they cannot afford something, usually they go out and use a credit card. Eventually, those credit cards are going to rack up, they charge interest, and they either go to bankruptcy or they just stop paying. In this case, the city obviously doesn't have the luxury of not paying. Obviously, we've seen, or I don't know if anybody remembers reading about Chicago, how they went into bankruptcy, and it was just a mess. So obviously, I'm hoping we don't have to go that route. I know Mr. Day has a few different tough calls to make. I'm not sure if he's going to be capable of doing it, but at the end of the day, they need to be done. Otherwise, our new city manager is going to be starting with a horrible budget, and it's going to be our fault, basically. So I just want to caution everybody that borrowing is not a way to get ourselves out of debt.
Anyone else?
I have to agree with Mr. Guerrero. I think I'm just not happy with what I'm seeing so far.
On the interlocal loans that you're suggesting, are they coming from, where would the loans money be coming from?
Well, as if I may.
Yes, I think so, yes.
Mr. Day. As council is aware, we had several funds that started the year with a negative balance, and they have not recuperated that throughout the year. One of those is the ambulance fund. We know that it is in a current deficit position, and it has been that way for most of this year. To get to the end of the year, it will need an interfund loan, and likely from a fund that has a cash availability. The rate increase that was adopted for 2019, once that's implemented, the funds will start coming through, and I project that it won't be a long-term loan. It would be short-term until the fund can get itself to the black again. That would be an example of one fund that I know for sure I will need to get an interfund loan to make sure we get all the way through the end of the year.
Would you care to say what the other funds are that we may need interfund loans for?
So as of today at 4:32 when I ran my report, so this is the information I have as of right now, we would be looking at the street fund, the general fund, and then the ambulance fund. I have two other funds that are bond revenue funds, and those are just actually, they need to be transferred from the water fund and the sewer fund, and so they're just a what I would call a daylight negative. It just means that I need to transfer money for the water payment into the bond payment fund. So that just isn't something that I'm concerned about. The money is there and it's budgeted. I just need to make the transfer. So right now, the general fund, the street fund, and the ambulance fund are my three funds that are at a negative position as of 4:30 today.
Thank you.
How much is the general fund negative as of that report time?
$626,589.28.
And that doesn't include December at all, correct?
It covers payroll through today and all payables that you currently approved on the consent agenda. That also does not roll the contingency fund into that at all. That is an unrolled balance.
Okay.
So that does not count what we have in actual contingency. And the contingency fund balance right now is $411,155.64.
So technically, if they would get audited today, it would show a negative balance of about 200,000.
Correct.
Okay.
Now, the preliminary budget that we have before us probably shows us some other things that have been shaved from the budget. Could you expound on that a little bit, sir? Mr.
Madam, if I may allow Elizabeth to, she's been crunching these numbers.
Mayor and Council, I do think after reviewing the proposed budget, the biggest issue that we're going to have is, like I said, where we end in 18, and it's those beginning fund balances. So I've been looking at every beginning fund balance, and you'll notice one of the biggest ones that shows on this report is our 2019 revenues in the contingency fund. I have taken from approximately 560,000 is what it was at last Monday, down to 405, and that's really a reflection of the current balance today. And then if I come back to you on the 10th and ask for an interfund loan, more than likely I would be coming for the balance between this and the general fund, so it would roll that. And so the contingency would be used. And so when I come back for a revision, I would count that as part of the general fund balance or ending fund balance, because we wouldn't want to take a loan and have to pay interest on something that we wouldn't have to. And interfund loans do need interest, and they are something that we have to take on at an interest rate that's fair to the other fund. And then there's just been other little things that we've looked through, looked at all salaries, making sure that we were capturing employees in the correct place, reviewing square footage of buildings, making sure that each department was being properly charged for the items that they were responsible for. And I'll give you an example of this building. This building actually had a line item in the general fund that was all the utility bills were going to one place. And even though it's a general fund expenditure and it doesn't change our fund balance, we actually went through and had Shane look at the square footage and the usage of this building, and now we're actually billing that out between the jail, the police, and the court. And then standardizing the common areas so that we can actually say this is an actual way the utility should go, so that we can track those expenses per department. So it's things like that that we've done, just making sure that every cost is allocated the best way that we can.
So you see that we budgeted the 20,000 for the payroll liability fund. Is that what that means? 2019 expenditures? Is that what the 20,000 looks like?
Actually, the payroll liability fund exists to pay liabilities that are created on the very last payroll that are deducted from employees' paychecks but
right.
unpaid. So the payroll liability is not a liability for, it is not a liability for future payouts or anything. It is our current liability for this current payroll. And if you were to look at a report that I printed today, because payroll was today, it's a little bit different. So today, our payroll liability balance is negative $143,030.43. If you were to see that payroll liability today, you would say, why is it so much? Because payroll was today. And so we have unpaid vendors. We've deducted from our employees, and we just haven't submitted that check to the vendor yet. So it sits in the payroll liability account until my payroll person, actually tomorrow, she'll go in and cut those checks, and once they're cut, then that liability balance declines.
So I know that at the last meeting, Mr. Day said he was going to plug that in somewhere. Where's that at?
I don't have any line items in the general fund that we've added that to.
We have not done that. It'll be done by the 10th. We just haven't got it done this evening yet.
Also, Mr. Guerrero, you had wanted to see upwards of $500,000 in cuts. Have you seen that in here?
Well, just the basic math that's been done so far, we're going to potentially end the year with negative 200,000. We have 233 approximately savings that Mr. Day has been able to, and Elizabeth has been able to find. So we're going to potentially end up the year at zero, and with the interfund loans, and obviously we'll make it even, but it's not sustainable in the long run whatsoever. We can only borrow so much before, obviously, there's no more money to borrow. So I'm not happy with the budget whatsoever. So I expressed my concerns a lot at the last meeting. I just don't see this being a sustainable budget whatsoever, and I'm still not happy with it. I don't think I'm ever going to be happy with it unless there's enough money there to be able to make payroll without having to borrow money. And at that point, it's going to have to be at least, at the end of the year, at least add $500,000 to be able to do payroll and pay the bills on time without having to worry about borrowing money from other funds.
Mr. Day, if I may? One of the things that I would like to point out, we haven't changed the revenues at all since the very first projection. We looked through all of the revenues in the general fund, made the recommendations to increase, several items that we were able to increase. I believe that in 2019, there are several things that will help our general fund, but I don't want to bank on those things. So I think with our increase in businesses, increase in building permits, in the things that are actively going on in our city, I believe we will have growth in revenues, but I was not comfortable banking on that growth for 2019. I think that there are things that are going to happen where we will have revenue growth. I just did not want to project out a large revenue growth that was not going to happen. So I was very, very conservative on revenues. I did not make big wild jumps. I looked at trend, I did the backwards look, and then made very small adjustments to revenues. So I suspect that by mid-year next year, we will be in a better position. But on that same line, I want to make sure that we live within our means and do not overexpend on the expenditure side.
Just a quick comment. Obviously, individuals will gamble. They always gamble thinking the next one they're going to win, and the next one they're going to win, and the next one they're going to win. So obviously at this point, yes, we don't know what revenue's going to be like. I wish they were double what they are this year. We just don't know. And I appreciate you being conservative, because at the end of the day, we think, oh, yes, everything is rosy, and next thing you know, at the end of the year, guess what? Revenues did not materialize, and next thing you know, we're in the same boat or worse. So that does make sense, and this whole gambling effect it's addictive to individuals, and they basically think the next time they bet on something, they're going to win, and unfortunately, that's, I think, what we're doing. We're betting on stuff that, in this case, you were conservative on it, which is great, but, if you weren't here, what else will we have? Other gambling options, I guess, or bets that may not materialize. So,
Any other comments?
I think it's kind of a problem gambling on that the future is going to keep growing the way it is. The national forecast is that the GDP is going to be less than half what it is this year, and that the expenditure by citizens will be pretty much flatlined for the next year. And for us to count on growth when the projections are flatlined, I think it's a little presumptuous on our part. We need to err on the side of caution.
So there are some numbers that are still out there, if I understand correctly. Reference payroll, correct?
Ma'am, this is correct. I intend to continue to work on this, and I will continue to shave. There's areas that I haven't done yet. I've told the staff to expect those, but they're not in this document yet.
Okay.
So, Mr. Day, there's a couple different numbers here in the 29 proposed budget summary that have question marks next to it. Just get an explanation on them. Fund number 415 for 2019 revenues and expenditures. 2018 looks like ended negative 113,000. This is the second page, the one that I think the Excel sheet that Ms. Alba puts together for us. And then on 2019, it looks like we start off at 113,000. We expend the full amount, but we end up at zero.
That's the difference. I apologize, Madam Mayor.
Yes, that's fine. Go
That's
ahead.
not your ending fund balance. Okay, that was your revenues. Again, this one is, you're looking at it, if I'm looking at the correct document.
The last page on this,
Wait, I better get to the right document. I might not be in the right one.
the last page.
This one?
Yes.
The one that says proposed summary at the top.
Yes, it says printed on 11/26/2018.
Okay, if you look at, that's what I was looking at. 2019 proposed budget summary.
Yes.
The 415 is one of them that you had a question on.
Yes.
The the 2018 total revenues is 113,172. Total expenditures is showing a 226,000 for a difference of a negative 113,000. The 2019 revenues are showing 113 and a total expenditures of 113. So in 2018 we had 226,000, and that's one of those deals, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Alba, but isn't that where we set up the reserve fund for those? So we had to make basically a double fund. We have to set, by the bond, it requires us to have in reserve a year's payment. And I believe that's correct. So we made basically a double payment. But that money is sitting in the budget in a fund by itself as a reserve fund. Is that correct?
Mr. Day, if I may. Actually, this will be a part of my budget amendment. I split the 415 fund. It used to be named Water Sewer Revenue Bond Fund. And I split it to water revenue bond and sewer revenue bond. As part of the budget amendment, I'll be bringing forward a request to move 113,172 down to the sewer portion so I can split those funds and have them roll together. I've talked a lot about rolling funds together. When I have one that's combined for water and sewer, I have to manually split it every year, and that causes errors. So I, this year, decided to bite the bullet and go ahead and split those two funds. So instead of having a single fund for water sewer bond payments, I now have funds for each one of those for bond payments and reserves for each one of those for bond payments. So again, there's now, used to be one fund, now there's four.
So that answers the second question I had about the sewer revenue bond fund, but then I have in here sewer bond reserve fund.
Correct. And
Is that the
so
other part of that?
that is the other part of it. We are required to maintain the next year's payment in reserve. So every year I will reserve the amount, and I just went ahead and left the 114,250, and I can leave that same amount every year until we have diminished it below a certain dollar amount. Then it can go back in to the respective fund. But basically, I have to guarantee that the water fund and the sewer fund can afford their payment next year by reserving it this year.
Which makes sense, obviously. Okay. That answers my question. Thank you.
Sort of makes it cleaner as well as you're going forward, it would appear to me.
That's kind of what I want to do with the general fund. Start at the beginning with that money there and then work our way towards the end goal. But obviously, it's not very popular, so what can I say?
Give us some time and we will get there.
Eventually? All right.
So,
That's all the questions I had, Madam Mayor.
okay, thank you. If there's no other questions or comments to this item, the public hearing is now adjourned. Oh, what? Excuse me?
You want to continue this until the 10th?
Oh, okay. So what I do is now adjourn, and we'll continue at the next regular city council meeting. have to read the whole entire sentence, which would be December the 10th. They put it on a little script. I just have to read all of it. You know, the Cliff Notes don't quite work here. Okay, thank you then. So that is continued to December to the 10th, and at which time the public hearing will reopen. And thank you all for your work on this. And I know there's still some things you're trying to do with it, so I appreciate that effort as well. A difficult year, but if we can get her straightened out, I think we'll be fine. I hope. So, moving ahead to item B on the active agenda, the Yakima Valley Highway 9th Street to 11th Street pipe lining project. Consider authorizing the city manager to execute a contract with Columbia Pumping and Construction, Inc. to install approximately 130 feet to 12-inch pipe lining along Yakima Valley Highway between 9th Street and 11th Street. Mr. City Manager, could you explain this?
Madam Mayor, Council, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know how much detail I need to go into this, but we've been having some problems in this area for some time with some sewage. Okay, we don't know if it's ours or SVIDs or how, or somebody's got a broken water line or a sewer line, but we've got a section of sewer in there that they have gone in with their camera and looked at, and they feel they need to line it. This is the new age way of doing this. Instead of digging it up and replacing it, they just shove this pipeline down in there, blow it up with air, and you've replaced your sewer line. So, and then they go down with another little machine and drill holes in it where they need to have the connections for the sewer systems. So that's what this is about. You have two proposals, one from this company and another from a second company, and this one is the best qualified and I believe it's the lowest price. So total is $43,319, and that would be for Columbia. The other one was $57,000. So we're asking for approval to go ahead and go through this. We believe this will help us with our E. coli problem in that area. Or not E. coli, fecal matter. I apologize. Yeah, no, we don't have E. coli. We have fecal matter.
Okay.
My apologies.
It sounds like romaine lettuce is happening all
Yes.
over again. Okay.
Yes.
So now we're just kind of going back to that budget. The money is in the street fund for this? Or in the
Madam Mayor,
water?
this is the sewer fund, and
the
the
sewer
sewer fund does have money for this project.
Okay. And I see this doesn't include sales tax down here with
That's
the
correct.
payment.
Mr. Day, do we know what kind of pipe is existing at the moment in that area?
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
my apologies, Mr. Guerrero. I was told, but I can't remember now. It might be old clay line pipe, but I can't. I know that Shane told me, and it's slipping my mind now. But it's old, very old.
Fleming?
Yeah, and it might be clay or I don't think it's iron. I think it's clay.
I'm just kind of curious because sometimes, obviously, we're going to put 47 grand into this. If it's something that's going to potentially shift or fail even further, then we have to dig it up anyways. But
Madam Mayor, if I
Yes,
may,
yes.
this won't fail. What this will do is, the way this stuff works is this is a very modern, high-tech plastic, and it's soft. And what they do is they shoot it in there. It's rolled up inside of itself. They shove it through there with this machine, and then they inject steam into it. It expands it and solidifies it. Okay, you may have seen that new glue on TV that they use with the little blue light. It solidifies it. It's just a gel, and then you hit it with the little blue light, and then it solidifies into a solid. This is kind of the same thing. So when you get done with this, it's not just a balloon in there. It is a rock solid, like PVC pipe, if you know what that is. Okay,
Right.
The Schedule 40 type pipe. It just expands open, solidifies, and it's in place for a long time. This will be there for 100 years almost.
I know we've been doing sections at a time to kind of try to mitigate some of that, obviously cross-contamination with SVAD, and obviously we do have the funds, which makes sense, and obviously supporting. I'm just concerned that it's been draining for a while, and next thing you know, it's going to shift or crack or something, and then, again, we can't predict the
We're
future.
not sure this is actually going to resolve the problem. We just know that we've got a problem in this area, and we're doing what we can to
Right.
mitigate the problem and identify it and mitigate it as best we can. This is the best solution, and it's the most current high-tech solution that we have available to us.
Cheaper option, it sounds like it's as well.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, if we had to pay somebody to come in here and dig that out and replace it, it would take months to do, and you're talking 10, 12-foot ditches, and the construction equipment could come in here, it would be foreseeably $500,000 to do that same project. So it could get very expensive.
Any other questions on that or thoughts? Okay, what is the council's desire on this one?
Move to approve.
Second.
Mr. Henry, is that you?
That was me that made the
Mr.
motion to
Henry
approve
made the
that.
motion, seconded by Mr. Boersma. Is there any further debate? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. I too vote aye. Motion carries.
Just a quick question, Mr. Day, is this going to be on Yakima Valley Highway, on the actual, didn't we just resurface the whole area?
Yes.
So we're going to do it underground, so
It's
it'll be
underground.
no...
You won't even
okay.
know it's there. Yes.
Nice, okay.
So there's no digging, no possibility of disrupting.
Well,
Someone
there'll
else.
be a small cut, I think, if I remember correctly how they do this, but they might just go down through the manhole.
Okay,
Okay? If there's a manhole that they can get to, they'll just shove it down through the manhole.
Okay,
thank you.
awesome. Okay, thank you. All right, item C, the Yakima County Technology Services. Consider adopting an ordinance updating Sunnyside Municipal Code 2.02 to include solid waste rate and tipping fee increases effective for the 2019 fiscal year. Mr. City Manager, if you would.
Madam Mayor, I'm a little confused. I think that there might be a typo on there. I have C as being Yakima County Technology Services, but
not-
it says
Is that not what I
the
read?
waste rate and tipping.
Oh, you're
Well, they
right.
have nothing to do with solid
Okay.
waste rate
You
tipping
are-
fees.
You are absolutely
This
correct.
is, and my apologies, I just noticed that when you read it. So what this is for is actually an amended service agreement with the county for our IT services. I believe Ms. Alba touched on this at the last meeting.
That is
We've
right.
renegotiated our fees to cut them quite a bit. Do you remember how much it's cut? Like 50-some thousand, $60,000?
If I may?
Yes, ma'am.
65,000 plus.
And what this is going to do is if you'll recall, we are going to move some of our hardware up to their secure facility in Yakima. That will allow them to service it from up there as opposed to having an employee down here, and we'll save that employee being down here, okay, servicing our equipment. And then we are going to provide them a secondary secure location for some of their, as a backup, okay? So should something happen up there, they want the redundancy, so we're trading that back and forth so that they'll be utilizing our equipment for their stuff and, or our location for their equipment, and then we'll be moving all of our equipment up to our stuff, and then we save the salary of having that employee down here. So that's what this is about. And my apologies again, I didn't catch that until just now. So I am asking to approve the new contract with Yakima County Technology Services.
So according to the page about 4 of this services, the annual fee will then be $127,526.
Madam Mayor, that is correct. $127,526.
And that is at the $65,000 savings.
That is correct.
I have just one question there. So whenever my password goes out, who do I call?
You'll still have that person here.
Okay, because that was a concern. Because it frequently happens to me.
We're keeping one employee here, we're just not going to have the second employee on site.
Okay, all right. Any other questions from anyone?
Just a comment, just kudos for finding that.
Absolutely.
Obviously, it's a drop in the bucket of everything that we really need, but every little drop adds up to something, so I'm glad you were able to find that one.
Very good. So, any other comments from council? What is the council's desire on this issue?
Move to approve.
Is that, who was that? Mr. Hicks?
And I'll second that.
Mr. Boersma seconds. Any further debate? Any further comments? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. I too vote aye. Motion carries. Okay, now, do I move that, go to D here with the solid waste CPI and tipping fees? I see, and it says the same thing, right? Okay, so that's where consider opting an ordinance updating the Sunnyside Municipal Code 2.202 to include solid waste rate and tipping fee increases effective for the 2019 fiscal year. So, Mr. City Manager.
Madam Mayor, Council, as you may recall, back in 2015, we did agree to automatic increases in the fees. Okay, you have to make an ordinance to pass that on to the ratepayers, and that's what this does tonight, I believe.
All right.
There is, and again, there's some math in there for you, but the CPI has gone up, and the tipping fees have gone up as well. We were notified of that last year by Yakima County, and so this takes care of that and establishes a way to pass that on to the ratepayers.
So there's a couple of things in here that talk about, on the first page, if anyone had checked that the monthly increase for a 96-gallon customer is 30 cents per month, which, that's a big
pretty low.
I think. So, and the ton increase is $2 per ton, so, okay. Any questions with the council?
Madam Mayor, we've known this was coming for some time. I think we've been waiting for Yakima Waste to give us these numbers, but I remember we've been talking about this now for a couple of months, that this was coming. It's not a huge number. I think that we can go ahead and approve this one without any.
Okay. Any other comments?
Cents a month ain't bad.
I'm sorry, Mr. Hicks?
I said 30 cents a month. It's not bad.
Okay. Considering some of the other increases we've made, I think you're right on that. So what is the desire of the council?
I'll move to approve.
Mr. Henry?
Second.
And who's second? Mr. Hicks? So the motion is to consider that option, the ordinance updating the Sunnyside Municipal Code. Is there any further debate? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. I too vote aye. Motion carries. Thank you for working that out with the Yakima Waste folks. And that, of course, goes into effect 5 days after passage, correct?
That is correct.
All right.
This one starts January 1.
In January. Starts in January, not in December. That's not enough days. Okay. Gotcha.
Madam Mayor, we may have a comment.
Yes, there was a comment?
If I may speak, I
Yes.
just would like to clarify, just so council is aware.
Oh.
The 30 cents is only the tipping fee. The contracted rate increase is 35 cents, so it's a total of 65 cents
Oh,
rate
okay.
increase.
All right.
Okay? And the ordinance is in effect, but it has a date on when the bill
Correct.
it goes on. So even though we're saying that it's passed 5 days after, there's an actual date when we implement it on a billing cycle. So that's within that same ordinance. So it won't happen until 19.
Okay, so
Okay.
it'll come due on the next billing cycle after the
Effective
passage?
January.
January 31st, 2019.
Right, okay.
So that's the billing cycle it's implemented. So there's two things. You're passing it, but we're also saying it's implemented on that billing cycle.
Okay.
Okay? Just wanted to clarify to make sure that we were all on the
Excellent.
same page and that we weren't thinking 30 cents versus 65 cents.
Well, still, that's still pretty decent. All right. So the next thing that was added to the agenda tonight is the, okay. Now, this one is a Sunnyside Municipal Code for the 2.02 fees and charges update added, well, that was added to today for 26/2018. Consider adopting an ordinance and updating SMC 2.202 to include the recently adopted rates for the 2019 budget. So what we've done here is two things. The first thing is to update the the code to include the solid waste rates. And now we are adopting the ordinance, updating the ordinance to include the recently adopted rates. Does that make sense to you guys? It almost makes sense to me, but I'm sure can you explain that for me?
Madam Mayor, I'll be happy to try. This includes the utility rates for ambulance and stormwater. That's correct?
Mr. Day, if I may?
Yes, ma'am.
So you adopt rates by ordinance, and those rates are adopted, but then we have all of our rates in one chapter of the Sunnyside Municipal Code. This takes that chapter and updates the actual rates in the code so it's easy for people to find those rates. So you may amend them in one section, and then we ask you to come back and have the rates summarized in 2.02. So this is simply updating those rates for the 2019 schedule.
Are we all clear on that? Councilman? We're clear? Okay. So, since we've already made those rate changes, we approved them here in council, what we're now doing is putting it on paper? Okay. So, what is the desire of council?
Move to approve?
Second.
Mr. Henry moves to approve, seconded by Mr. Boersma. Any further debate?
I'm still in disagreement with this until we know the rest of the budget. I was in disagreement last time, and I still am. We really don't have all the answers for the budget tonight yet either, don't sound like. What we're doing is committing the citizens to taxes without knowing the entire budget even, or where the areas can be cut. We're kind of throwing away our only stick that we have.
Are there any other comments? Any other debate?
I don't think no one is happy about increasing rates for sure. I'm not. So, but I completely understand. Obviously, we have no option with the tipping fees. That's going to have to be done, whether we like it or not, unless we do our own solid waste pickup and disposal. Obviously, ambulance utility rate, we have to make that budget balance. Those we're going to be borrowing from every year. So again, this is one of those things we have to deal with and hope that eventually we won't be passing all these expenses that departments are having, running over on multiple different things, and hope that the citizens don't come back and lynch us because we're constantly increasing rates to pay for the mishaps of our department that cannot balance their budget.
And that's kind of the reason why I think we should hold off until we know what the cuts are going to be, where they're going to come up with the cuts. You know, you were talking, Mr. Guerrero, you wanted to see $500,000 in cuts. We don't see that. I'm afraid we keep passing stuff. We're not going to get the citizens are going to be paying a higher tax, and there's going to be no cuts to speak of at City Hall, except for supplies, according to the Daily News.
Any other comment, Mr. Boersma?
Yeah, my comment to this would be that, these tipping fees are going to go up, whether we approve a rate increase or not. We are going to be assessed that higher rate, whether we charge that to the community or whether we swallow that as a city. It's not going to help us at all if we don't approve this rate increase. It has to be passed on to the customer. We can't afford to absorb that. That would be yet another burden on our budget. And at the same time, as we look at all of the rate increases that we have thus far passed this year, it still puts us at the lower end or right even with every other community in the area. We haven't passed rate increases that put us way, way higher than any other community. So we are being very careful on the increases that we are passing. I understand where my colleagues are coming from. I don't disagree with the sentiment at all, but I think we need to look at these increases that we're passing and realize that we have been very careful about that. We're not trying to unduly tax our citizens, but we are trying to at least stay even or close to, if not just below, other communities in the area.
Thank you. Any other thoughts?
I'd just like to clarify, I'm not against doing it. I just want to see the other side of it first before we do it. That's really what my position is. I know we're going to have to do it. I just want to know what, I'd like to start seeing some suggestions from the city on the city. They're pushing everything off till the meeting that they want to approve the budget. We should be seeing what the cuts are, what some actual numbers. I know we have to do the raises, but
Madam Mayor, if I may.
Yes, Mr. Day.
Council, ladies and gentlemen, what we're doing here this evening on this particular action is not approving these rate increases. We've already done that. You did that at the last meeting, okay? This is just amending section 2.02, which is where we show the rates. That's all it's doing. It's a typographical correction, is all we're doing here tonight. Okay, we already approved the ambulance rate. We already approved the stormwater rate. You've already approved, again, just now, the solid waste tipping fees. We have those in a separate section so that somebody can just go in and look and see what those rates are. And that's all we're trying to do now, is get authority to change 2.02 so it corresponds with what you approved at the last meeting.
I think we still have, since we have the microphone, might as well show our distaste for the rate increases. So I completely understand what Mr. Day is saying, and I'm not objecting to putting it in SMC 2.02. I'm just expressing my distaste for rate increases.
Understood. Mr. Hicks.
Yeah, well, we're slightly in a different boat than most towns, though. We have a premium service of having our own ambulance system.
I'm sorry.
We're in a premium spot to have our own ambulance system. Most towns don't, and they rely on outside ambulances, which come at a very higher price than this.
Okay, but we are talking here just about
Ambulance utility.
fees and charges, yes. So, any further debate on that? So I guess at this point, call for the vote?
Make a motion that we approve the.
Yeah, we have a motion on the floor. We were doing debate. So all those in favor of adopting the ordinance to update the code signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed to adopting the ordinance updating signify by same sign. Okay, I too vote aye. Motion carries. Again, with that whole business, so we don't like doing rate increases, but the cost of living keeps going up, and so we must keep up as well. Thank you for your thoughts and your work on this. Okay, so at this point, we're to the items from council members and mayor appointments. I do need to announce is not really the right word, but I will be looking for another person to put on our Parks and Recreation Board, as Mr. Darrell Hall has, and he's in the audience, and he has issued his letter of resignation from the Parks and Rec Board for family reasons. And I just wanted to say on the record that we've appreciated your volunteer service on the Parks and Recreation Board, and the volunteerism that you gave down at the community center and at any project where extra hands were needed. We really appreciate that. So thank you very much, Mr. Hall, for your service. And if you know somebody who might be a nice replacement, send their name my way. Absolutely. And thank you so much for your service. My pleasure. And thank you.
And I would like to say, Mr. Hall, if it was within my power, I would decline your resignation and ask you to continue, but I don't have that much choice in the matter.
Indeed. I did try a little bit there, but when I understood what the purpose was, I had to say, okay, so.
No, he has a valid reason.
Yes, that's true. So we will be looking for another member for our Parks and Recreation Board, and we are still looking for a couple of members for our Arts and our Arts Commission as well, so. All right, so that's what I have on there. Other reports, announcements, and/or questions by council? Anyone have any burning topics they want to bring up at this time?
Well,
or comments?
I have a question for Mr. Day, because obviously I asked at the last meeting for the chief of police to kind of look into what was going on with those comments that a police officer was making against, I think, was it a fire chief? Somebody was telling about it, but.
It was on the Facebook.
Yeah, I don't have Facebook, so I didn't see it, but obviously it got brought up, and I was concerned that obviously one of our finest is potentially doing that, so I was kind of curious if Mr. Day got a report from the chief.
Madam Mayor, Mr. Guerrero, I did not get a report back on that. I apologize. I was expecting the chief to be here, but he had to leave. So I will get you something in writing, if that's okay. Send you out an email tomorrow, if that's all right.
Thank you.
Also want to comment on the chief that sent out a email regarding the lead task force. Did we talk about that at our last meeting? Do anyone recall? Where Sunnyside had in the last 5 years 179 cases. Grandview was the next largest. And he had basically his report was just a number of cases that each one of the towns that are participating in the lead task force represent. So he did send out a subsequent email. Did you folks see that one? Where he explained how the money breaks down and how the cases are. No?
I remember seeing the first one with the case load, but not the breakdown of dollars.
Okay, well, we'll make sure that that's second part, because I think there's still some questions there. So I will forward the email I received from him. Because I asked him the question on how does that break down. It ends up being like 3 cases a month over the 5 years for Sunnyside if it was 179, and that seemed like kind of there's the list right there. Do you have the other part? No? Because it seemed rather odd to me that that's a 5-year look at the cases, understanding that sometimes those cases can take a year or so, or sometimes multiple years to come to fruition, but it still seemed, it was difficult for me to wrap my head around it, I think, as far as what the comeback to Sunnyside is, and in the surrounding area. But he did have some other numbers, and so I will try to get those. I'll send them to Jackie, and she can disperse them. Will that be all right if I do that, Jackie?
Yes.
Thank you. All right. Any other announcements and/or questions by council? Yes, Mr. Hicks.
I have a question because I cannot remember. When are we supposed to be starting the bridge on Northwest Crescent and
Bridge?
The bridge project.
Bridge.
Mr. Day.
I think it's Bridge Street, isn't it?
Is it Bridge Street?
It is Bridge
so.
Street.
Yes.
Is Bridge Street the next one over?
Stackhouse.
It's like
Stackhouse.
Stackhouse.
Yes.
Yeah, then there's the bridge. Yes.
Stackhouse, and it turns into Sunnyside.
Is that next year, for next year?
Actually, it'll start in the, well, pretty soon, because they were waiting for the water to drain out. And I don't think they're going to be doing it during the winter time, so they'll start probably March 1.
Okay.
And try to get it finished before the water gets turned on.
That's kind of a short
It's
period
kind
of
of a
time.
short period of time, but I believe they're going to start pretty quick. It seems to me that that was budgeted for 2018. I'll
what
have to,
I
again, I
understand.
don't remember now. We had that last week at the meeting, and I can't remember what it was. But it'll be finished before they turn the water on. But it's only like 30 days or something. It's a very short time to put a bridge in.
That's my way.
And it
home
might be
half the
30
time, so I'm
construction
just trying
days,
to
but
figure
again,
out when
I'm
I need to start
just
rerouting.
going by my memory again, so.
As I recall.
I will try to
Madam
get you an
Mayor,
answer
I thought
tomorrow.
it was gonna happen yet this calendar year, and so.
That's what I understood
I believe
as
so,
well.
because it seems to me we're going to start this calendar year, because I think we have it in the budget for this year to start. But it won't get done this year, so it'll be into
Obviously-
next year.
Obviously, they missed November,
Yes.
because there's nothing going on out there right now.
It starts tomorrow.
Yes, and that, then,
So I did attend the drive meeting, and I forgot to bring my notes, so I won't have a full report on that. But they are shifting the way DOT allocates funding for different projects, and I'll bring my notes for next meeting, and I'll have a more details note. But they give us a presentation on how they're going to shift funding from the Department of Transportation. So that's was the bulk of the meeting. They did have it was a combined meeting between Drive and I forgot the other group is. We had both of those in there. One of the things they did ask, and I asked Mr. Fisher a little bit about it last time, they were asking for us to provide our 10 worst miles and our worst bridge that we would like to have as a potential package with Yakima County to present to the state for potential funding. And Mr. Fisher said that was pretty easy, the 10 miles, 10 worst miles. And then I said, so I told them one of these, we'll just stop by and I'll get those down and send them over to the person in charge of that meeting. And they could put Sunnyside on the packet because we're not on there right now. So it was an interesting meeting. There was a lot of individuals from Yakima County, a lot of people from different cities, and public work directors. So it was a packed house, and it was the Yakima Department of Transportation building in Union Gap, and there was a lot of good information there. Again, I don't have all my notes with me, but I'll bring it for the next meeting and hopefully give you guys a little more detail. And I'll stop by with Mr. Day and Shane and find out what those 2 items they want us to report to them as far as the worst 10 miles and the worst bridge we have.
I did meet with Mr. Fisher. He's going to be out of town for a week, and so am I.
Okay.
So, but he was working on that, and quite frankly, all of our bridges, other than Stackhouse, are not qualified. They're in pretty good shape, amazingly. So we're looking at Bridge Street, the bridge on Bridge Street, and for some pedestrian improvements. So that's where we'll be on that.
And
But he was also working at looking at some side streets and stuff like that that would not qualify for your TIB and that sort of stuff funding. So he was working on that.
one of the things they did say was if there was I'm not sure if it's an assistant to the one of our representatives to the state or Congress person, and they said that there was funds from the Bureau of Reclamation if any of the bridges crossed a like SVAD canal, for example. So I think most of ours do.
Yes.
So there's funds there from the Bureau of Reclamation that we could potentially tap into. Again, all of this is going to require matching funds, which obviously we don't have a whole lot of at this point. But obviously we do put ourselves on the radar in case there is funding at the state level. And down the road we can get our budget straightened out. We do have that option of being on their radar, at least for potentially these improvements if the state wants to allocate some funding for these projects. So whenever you guys get back, I'll reach out and get those down and send them over as soon as possible.
okay. Yes, Mr. Strimler.
We haven't got our department reports for October yet.
For October,
Correct.
department reports for October?
I thought you sent some out.
I thought,
I'll have to double check.
Yeah.
Because I thought we had sent some out.
Okay.
Madam Mayor, I also
Yes.
just received some information from the city clerk.
yes,
The project on Stackhouse will begin on 2/25. It's 40 days.
2/25, February?
February.
February 25, 19, okay. All right. Thank you. I'm trying to remember if we had an opportunity to thank Ms. Alba and Mr. Grove from the Parks and Recreation Department for the work they did on the community dinner that was held recently. I think that was November 17th. out at the community center. I don't know how many of you got to go out there and eat. I went and ate. It was a wonderful meal. We had a lot of good volunteers out there. A lot of great pies. The Kiwanis did an amazing job bringing in pies. There was pies for everybody in town practically. It was cool. And for their first one this year, I think, Ms. Alba, wasn't there like just shy of 200 people showed up to eat?
Yes, that is correct. Just about 200 people.
Right. And there were a lot of people who didn't realize that anybody could come. You didn't have to be just, anybody could come. It wasn't just focused at one segment of the population. It was for everybody. And so next year it could be even bigger. So there was some entertainment, some really good entertainment, nice lineup. And so I just wanted to commend you and Mr. Grohl and your volunteers on putting that together. It was really a nice event for the community. So thank you on that.
Yeah, I did hear good things about that. Unfortunately, I couldn't attend. I tried. I meant to. I thought about it all day, and I just could not get finished working until 6 o'clock that day, so I missed out. But I did hear good things from people who were there, so yeah. I want to
Very good.
just go right along with what the mayor is saying. Well done.
Well done.
Just an announcement, we've been getting quite a few invitations for our hospital's fundraiser that they have.
Festival of Trees.
Festival of Trees, so November 30th, I believe from 5:30 till 10, and I believe at City Hall, if I'm not mistaken, at City Hall, at the Community Center.
Community Center.
And then on Friday, they have some more events going on. On Saturday, they have some more events going on. So if you are thinking about going, then obviously it's time to get those tickets for Friday. So
Absolutely.
I've been there for you before, and I haven't been able to go to the past couple of years, but I'm planning on going this Friday. And it's been a good event in the past, and I'm looking forward to it being a good event this weekend as well.
One of the things about the event, that I'll just add on to what Mr. Guerrero said, is that when we talked earlier about the possibility of expanding the community center, this year the festival has had to do some creative thinking in order to expand where they put some of their things, in order to so it's not too crowded inside the community center commons area there. So they're putting up tents to put some of the silent auction items outside with some heaters under some canopy kind of tent things to kind of get the flow of people moving around. So obviously the money from the LTAC that we were putting aside is going to be needed sooner than later. So we really need to stay focused on expanding the community center at some point, as soon as we're might be able to find some other money for that, because it is a tourism thing. It brings a lot of people. People come to the Festival of Trees from up and down all of the valley, doctors and nurses and whatnots, and people like us. We're the whatnots who show up for the event. So keep that in mind when you're out there and enjoying that. Anything else?
I just want to remind everyone this Saturday is the Augmented Light Parade, and I hope to see you all there. I know our float's registered to go in, so always have a blast down there.
Okay. All right. I know there's a lot more to announce, but I thought I'd leave some for the city manager to make some announcements on too. If he doesn't, then I have a little list.
Very good.
So we'll move on to our council request status report. Is there any items that, other than the ones that we have already on there, that we want to add to? Again, with the monthly budget position reports and quarterly reports, I want to definitely, that's one that we put on there in October, and I know Ms. Alba sent out for, I believe it was the October ones. So we should be expecting the November ones soon, correct? Monday. All right, thank you for that. Any other items that we want to put on this for future reference? Things to be researched. Well, let's keep it in mind, because there's always something going on that we need to be doing. So the agenda planning schedule. So, Mr. City Manager, I'll let you talk on that.
Madam Mayor, so far for the December 3 workshop, I have public hearing number 2, but I'm not sure if that's correct anymore, because we continued the public hearing from this evening.
Right.
So we'll do that to the 10th. So I'm not sure if that's going to happen. I'll have to double check. That might just be something that we just changed.
It might have been something.
The
we
community
put in as
development
a
ordinance,
placeholder.
which is the financial aid ordinance to businesses. Kerr Law Group will be here on December 3rd to discuss that with you guys, so he can get some, make sure he's on the right page, so he can finish this up and bring it forward, okay?
And that's from our subcommittee on community
That's
development
correct.
ordinance that we, I saw that Mr.
That's correct.
Ferguson had sent out something to that effect.
That's correct. And then the Transportation Benefit District, he'll also be here to discuss that. And those are the only two things that we have for the meeting. On December 10th, again, you'll continue your public hearing. We will bring the final budget forward, and I believe that's all I have on that meeting so far. December 24th is a scheduled meeting. We don't normally have one scheduled for the second meeting in December, so, but it's blank right now.
Because that's Christmas Eve too, if you'll notice.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So just one thing, two things that occurred to me for either the workshop and or the regular meeting regarding the LTAC or change the policy changes. Or did we need to bring those
Okay.
back before city council?
Yes, we do. We never finalized those. You asked, if I
Yeah,
recall
and
correctly, for input.
Input from the council,
and I
which we
don't
did not
remember-
receive.
I don't remember ever getting any.
That's true.
So we can start drafting it ourselves, I guess, or whatever you want me to do. We can draft something and put it together and bring it forward if you want to.
I think that's.
I don't know if I'll have time to get it done by the 10th, though.
We'll see what you can do. I'll trust you to do what you can do on that. There was one other thing, too. I don't remember it coming through. It was on an agenda, but then I don't remember it's coming through, and that was the determining of the official city newspaper.
We didn't put that in yet,
Not yet. The Daily Sun uses their,
publication dates and stuff.
Yes.
And now they have sold.
so I'm not just.
Okay.
I'll discuss that with
Staff?
Ms. Rivera. Yes.
Okay. I thought something along those lines might have occurred, but I remembered it was on one agenda, then it was off, so I just thought I'd follow up on that.
We'll discuss that tomorrow and report back to you on the 10th.
Okay. And I see we're keeping on there about the tiny houses, but we're waiting for an assessment.
excuse me.
From Yakima
Yes.
County, or.
Yes, that was also supposed to be discussed on the 3rd, but for some reason we pulled that off of there.
Okay.
I didn't see that on mine.
It's down very at the bottom there. It's the last little thing there.
It's not on mine. Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
You meant the very bottom.
I meant the very bottom.
Yes,
yeah.
I thought that was supposed to be for December 3rd.
Yeah.
Put it back on.
We can go forward with the discussion if you want to. We just don't have anything back from Yakima County. Okay?
I
so
think we were waiting
that's
for the
entirely up to you
assessment.
guys what you want to do with that.
Right. For some reason.
We've
we-
had a discussion on this. We've
Right.
presented some information quite a while ago. You know, and again, as I said then, there are a number of different avenues you can approach. Okay, you've got the homeless shelters, you've got the tiny houses like you see on TV, the multi-million-dollar tiny houses, you know, that they got on the TV shows, and then you've got the mother-in-law houses. Okay, so that's, I mean, you've got at least 3 different avenues, and some areas are actually coming up with some others. Okay, so it depends on where you, as a city council, want to go with this as to, you know, the final look. So, you know, we discussed it. We presented you some information. I think from, I don't remember the city in California, San Jose, comes to mind. I think that's correct. They've actually got an ordinance in place, but theirs is pretty much all encompassing. It's the mother-in-law, you know, cottages and stuff like that. So. But again, we can certainly bring that forward and discuss it, or we can wait until you get more information from Yakima County.
What's the consensus here? I know, Mr. Henry, you were kind of interested in that particular.
I was interested in the tiny homes and what Westport was doing, and my main concern was just to drop our ordinance from 800 square feet and attached garage. That's what it really comes down to, is that. So what I wanted to do originally was direct our planning commission, if they wanted to be involved in something, to do that, to come back with a new ordinance of something changed from the 800 and attached square to perhaps something 400 and not an attached. That way we don't have to have the RV ordinance that we have in place lifted, it would, because it would be a solid structure on a foundation. It would literally just have to lower our square footage ordinance is what I was really wanting to do overall.
Well, I'm thinking with the tiny houses, what we were talking about here was more concern about zoning, where they might be zoned, and then, you know, some other qualifications for size and that sort of things is what we were talking about originally, if I recall. But some of those other things could probably be discussed at a future time when we do this. So,
Okay, sure.
okay, so, yeah, for now, let's leave it off. Thank you. We'll come back to that possibly in the new year. And you'll be off the hook. Okay, items from city manager and department heads.
Madam Mayor, if I can defer to my department heads.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I have nothing.
Well, you must have something.
No, actually, I was going to bring a couple things to update that SMC 2.02, but we're waiting on one more report. That report that we paid for AP Triton to do the GEMT thing. I did get an email today. I spent the entire weekend crunching some numbers for them, and basically they said that they'll give us the report back by Wednesday. It's due to be submitted on Friday. So once we do that, we'll find out based off of that if our ambulance rates are in the right spot,
Okay, good.
or if our fee. I mean, for
Your fee.
price per transport that we send to the insurance company.
Great. And then also, do you have anything to report on the chili feed on Saturday night at the fire station?
I don't. I'm sorry.
What?
I don't even know. They
They haven't told you that you're
No.
having one there?
No. They kind of mentioned it in passing, but I didn't even know when it was. We've been focusing on what we're going to do for the parade, though.
Okay, good. Well, don't forget the chili, because I'm coming for dinner. So, okay. Okay.
So, as Rotary President, I am going to give you some announcements, but not as a city employee, so I'm putting my other hat on right now. This is the Rotary's Lighted Farm Implement Parade, and as Rotary President, I have a long laundry list of duties to do this week. So I am actually taking Thursday and Friday off of city time, and will be using some vacation, but I will probably be all over Sunnyside those 2 days, and available if somebody needs me. We have a parade float entry as part of that. Rotary will have an entry. We've decorated. Dawn came and helped that afternoon as well. And then there are a ton of things going on. Thursday night, there is our Christmas tree lighting, which our mayor will be actually plugging the tree in. After that, this is something that's very exciting for me. Rotary is actually giving a donation to the Valley Performing Arts Center for their floor, and the donation is $10,000. So this is big for our community. So this is a way that we can give back. And this is the second time this year we've done a large donation. So it's a really proud thing that we can donate to good events and good things that benefit children. And then Friday night is the Children's Lighted Parade. So that is put on by a different organization, but still something very worthy of attending. So if you're not going to the Festival of Trees, we encourage everyone to go watch the kids and their lights on their bikes and their own little parade. And then part of Festival of Trees, I do have 2 tickets available that I am opening up to anyone in council, first come, first serve. So if you send me an email, I will let you know if you are the first one to get a ticket or not. So I do have 2 tickets available.
Mr. Guerrero's over here texting you right now.
Yes.
Anyway, so I did want to offer that up. And if no one from council would like a ticket, I will then offer them to staff after that. But we wanted to give you the opportunity to go. And then Saturday, obviously, we will have roads blocked. We will have ton of people in town. The parade starts at 6:30. There is a jingle bell run before that. So if you are someone that wants to run, there is something called a flash mob. If you want to participate in that, there are 3 different locations for the flash mob. And there will be carolers during the parade, and we have a lot of entries. So it will be a packed weekend starting on Thursday. And then Sunday, if anyone wants to come and help clean up, we have a 9 a.m. cleanup crew that's coming in as Rotarians and swim team, and I believe Miss Sunnyside Court will be helping as well. So we come and clean the streets, pick up garbage, wearing gloves, and away we go. And we pick up garbage from Edison all the way downtown. So if you would like to participate in anything, get a hold of me. I will gladly put you to work for any one of those events. So just let you know, it is going to be a busy week in our city, but it is a great one. It is a great one, and we will have. I think I don't know the name of the group. Dawn, can you remind me the name of the group? We're being filmed this year for Northwest
Journey.
There we go,
I believe
Northwest
that's
Journeys.
Northwest Journey.
So it's a great thing, and I'm so proud to be a part of this community and bring this to our city. So that's my 2 cents.
I just want to mention, too, when you're talking about fun things that are going on, if it's too cold for you to be outside at the children's parade, there's a dance recital that's a Christmas present that's happening at the high school auditorium by the Martin School of Dance, which is the original dance school in Sunnyside, and they'll be having their Christmas soiree at the high school auditorium during, I think, just about the same time as the Christmas parade, the children's Christmas parade, but lots and lots happening this weekend. It's very exciting. Very exciting. Okay.
Madam Mayor, if I could, just want to clarify the 2 tickets that she's auctioning off are actually for the city. Okay, they're not from the Rotary. She needed to switch that out real quick. Okay, because we are a sponsor of of the Festival of Trees because we give them a discounted rate for the rental of the facility. Okay. So that's where those tickets come from. So just wanted to clarify that those are city tickets. So we'd like them to go to you if you'd like them. But again, it's going to be first come, first served basis. So that's where we're at. Again, there's a lot going on this weekend. As I've told you before, I will be out of town effective tomorrow morning. I'll be back on the 6th. And then we need to discuss my departure. Okay. My plan right now is to work through the 20th, 21st, whatever day that is, Thursday or Friday, I can't remember now, the Friday, and then leave, okay, and not come back. And appoint an acting city manager for the holidays, and then your new city manager will start on the 7th, okay. I have met with him, took him around, showed him some stuff. I will avail myself to him and you. Okay, you bet you don't have to pay me for that. In the future, there's no reason to be having me on the clock. Okay, so we haven't really discussed it. I said I would stay on for a transition, but I don't know if you need me to stay. If you need me to come back, I'll come back. But I really don't see a need. One thing that we would like to do is, if it's okay with you, if I depart on the 20th, 21st, whatever that day is, we'll say the 21st. So I think that's Friday. Okay. So if I work through the 21st and then just go on terminal leave from that day forward through the holidays, and then January 1, you're without a city manager, so I'd like to have him take his oath of office prior to that time. Okay. The city clerk can do that. He's going to be here this week. Okay. And he'll be official, and we can put him on the signature blocks for the checks and stuff like that. Because you don't want my name on your checks if I'm not working, okay? So we need to make that correction. And the way to do that is to give him his oath of office. He effectively starts January 1. He's going to report January 7th. But again, you pay him by the month. That's just his report date is January 7th. He's officially the city manager effective January 1. So that's what I would propose. If you have any objection to that, then, again, I told you I would stay as long as you wanted me to stay, but I don't really think you need me. So I think you're going to be good. So, but again, I will be here I'll be a phone call away, an email away. Of course, you don't know that new email yet, so.
Oh, there's a trick.
We'll just text you.
So again, I'm laying that out for you. That's my plan as I was looking at it, just to leave the 21st and go down and deliver Christmas packages all over the world. So I'll start my new job.
Start your new job as Santa.
That's right.
Is there any objection to that, Councilman? Sound good?
Sounds like a workable plan.
Sounds like a workable plan to me as well.
Very good. Please participate Thursday night. We light the tree. There's caroling. Friday night, the kids parade, the Festival of Trees. Saturday night's the big parade. Saturday afternoon, there's a lot of events going on as well. Okay, so I encourage everybody to get involved. We took this from a one-day event, scattered it through the whole weekend. This kicks off the season. This is the 30th anniversary for the Lighted Farm Implement Parade. It's going to be big. You're going to get to be on TV again. So I'd like to encourage all council members to get involved and volunteer where you can and show up and smile and shake hands. Be a part of this because it's a blast. If you haven't been to the kids parade, it's pretty neat. It's pretty cool.
Oh,
If you haven't been to the lighting of the Christmas tree, it's kind of neat. They do a great job. There's going to be a lot of carolers. Santa Claus might show up. I don't know. We'll see. Okay, but it's a lot of fun.
And the tree is decorated in the bandstand. Did you notice that? The DPAC people were in there today decorating it. So I drove by, I noticed it had all of its stuff on it. But it's just waiting for me to turn on the lights. I can hardly wait. It's going to be so fun.
I will say, last year I got to be a participant in that as an announcer, and I had a blast.
Oh,
It was
yeah.
an awful lot of fun. You will enjoy yourself.
Oh, yeah. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be great. I plan on being to as many of the events as possible. I'm going to probably be a basket case by Sunday, but I really want to enjoy it because, I've been around the 30 years the parade has been around and seeing it grow and this year going from just a one-day event. And, there's also a big old bazaar over at the Mid-Valley Mall, too, that's always held on that first weekend. So there's just something for everybody, at this event, with lots of different partners. So try to
It's a lot of
take it
fun
in.
for this coming weekend,
Yeah.
and I'm sorry I'm not going to be able to get here, but I have to take care of some family stuff.
Burgers, okay. Well, thank you for what you've done to get the parade going, and thank you for what you've done for the city as well. I know we'll get another chance to say that.
Yes, I will be here on the 10th,
Okay, all right.
unless the plane crashes.
Don't borrow trouble. Holy moly, I've been telling my daughter that all
It's
weekend.
either that or I got to go on Medicare.
Oy vey. Okay, if there is nothing further to come before the council, and without objection, I think we can adjourn.